All right. Hi, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. We might have some folks join us. That's totally fine. So welcome. My name is Casey Johnstone. I'm the Student Development Coordinator for New Student Programs. We're super excited to have you. Hopefully this will be a helpful time to get your questions answered and also just continue connecting with your peers. So this webinar is for Pratt Advising. Yesterday we had Trinity, tomorrow we have pre-health, and this is the one and only Pratt session. So we'll start off with introducing the panelists, and then we'll kind of do a rundown of the day. So let's start with new student programs. So let's start with Nicole.
Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Nicole Pontecorvo and I'm the Assistant Director of New Student Programs.
Awesome. Jordan?
Hey everybody, my name is Jordan Hale. I also work in New Student Programs here at Duke, and we're really excited to welcome all of you future Pratt students here today. It's awesome.
Awesome. Evelyn?
Hi everyone, I'm a senior teamer studying BME and ACE. I'm originally from Delaware and I'm excited to be here and help you guys with any questions that you have.
Great. Up next is Natalie.
Hey guys, I'm Natalie. I am an incoming senior this year, majoring in biomedical engineering and minoring in neuroscience and chemistry. I am from Indiana, so if anybody else is, there's only a few of us, so I'd love to get to know you. And I'm also the head of E-Team, which is an organization that you're going to be getting to know a little bit your freshman year. And our goal is to provide peer mentors for freshmen and help with that transition.
Great, thank you. Shami?
Hi y'all, welcome to Duke. My name is Shami. I'm a rising junior majoring in mechanical engineering with a certificate in innovation and entrepreneurship. We're super excited to help you, and I'm also the mechanical engineering lead on E-Team alongside Natalie.
Great. Samuel?
Hi everyone, I'm Samuel. I'm a rising senior double majoring in electrical engineering and computer science. I'm from Bethesda, Maryland, and I am on E-Team, and also I am a tour guide, so maybe I gave your tour in the fall. That'd be cool if it was you. If I saw you then, welcome back. Happy to have you.
Philip?
Hey guys, I'm Philip. I'm a rising junior from Virginia. I'm double majoring in BME and ECE. And yeah, welcome to Pratt.
Sadie?
Hi everyone, I am Sadie. I am a rising junior. I'm majoring in civil engineering. I'm doing the environment and water track. I also have a potential minor in visual arts, and I'm the civil and environmental lead for E-Team, which we've talked about, and I'm really excited to answer any questions you have.
Great. Jennifer?
Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Jennifer and I am the Director of Undergraduate Student Affairs in Pratt. So I'm happy to help you with anything that you need, but I mainly oversee all of our clubs and organizations. So if you want to get involved in Pratt, I'm your gal.
And last but certainly not least, we have Dean Mcmillan.
Hi everyone, I am Dean Mcmillan. I am one of 3 academic deans in Pratt. I also answer a lot of the Pratt advising emails that have been coming in. So I am really thrilled to be here and we are excited to welcome you. We just want to put a little preface out there that this session, although it was originally supposed to be billed as a registration session, as I'm sure you're reading your emails, we have pushed back registration and book bagging a little bit. So you have more time, so there's no reason to be concerned about that because nobody is book bagging right now. And as soon as we have updated information and dates, we will certainly get those out to you. So I'm excited to be here, and I hope you have a great conversation with our E-Teamers.
Great, thank you. So a little bit about how this works. If you haven't joined for any of our other webinars, at the very bottom of your Zoom screen, there is a button that says Q&A and then has two little chat bubbles. So we'll be using a Q&A feature for this. So if you click on that button, you can type any question that you have and it'll be sent to us. I'll be moderating the session today, so I'll be asking your questions aloud, and then our lovely panelists will be answering them. So if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and start putting them into, oh, there we go. Yep, perfect. Great first question. What is E-Team?
So I said a little bit about what it is, but I can give a little bit more detail. E-Team is basically a group of engineers that are upperclassmen from all different engineering fields, BME, EC, MECI, and we have a bunch of students, and essentially the goal of E-Team is to connect with freshmen all throughout their freshman year, from the beginning to the end, and help with connecting them to resources on campus, act as peer mentors for them, and just guide them through the Duke experience and that transition from high school to college, and specifically in engineering, how that works, and giving advice on where to go on campus. And basically serving as designated friends that are upperclassmen that maybe are a little bit more sure of themselves on campus because they've been there for a year or more.
Great, thank you. Let's see. Next question is, do any of the panelists have any advice on balancing workload in freshman year? How did you go about selecting classes?
Yeah, so I can speak to that a little bit. So for me, coming into Duke, the workload was starkly different. It doesn't matter what high school you went to. I promise you, college is going to be different. Don't go in expecting it's going to be a breeze. But even though I'm putting that as like a side note, Duke really does have resources that'll help you balance things. One resource that I've been using since freshman year is the Academic Resource Center. It's located on East Campus, and that's normally where freshmen all live on campus. So hopefully it's close by you guys. All you have to do is set up a meeting. The person I always set up a meeting with is Debbie. She's the best, and she helps me manage like my course load, when I work on classes, when to block out time with my friends. It was a really good resource for me. Yeah.
Does anyone else want to give some advice?
With respect to choosing classes, I have a good piece of advice is to just ask upperclassmen what they thought the workload was for each different class that you're thinking about taking, because workload can vary a lot between classes, and you don't want to be taking all these classes that require like 2 hours of homework a day or things like that. Some classes may require a little bit less work at home or in your dorms or wherever you do work. Outside of class, some require a little bit more time, so you want to really balance those out. And on top of that, I would say don't get too caught up in kind of filling out all your requirements your freshman year. Don't get too caught up in all these different requirements for your majors and things like that. Just take what you think is interesting in your freshman year, because you do have space for, you have to take humanities, so there are a lot of great humanities courses at Duke. I know a lot of seniors do take them later on in their Duke career, but it's fine. I was actually in a focus cohort my freshman year, and that was 2.5 humanities courses in the first semester of my freshman year, and I don't really think that set me back in any way. So don't get too caught up in all those requirements is my advice.
Thank you for that. We have a question. What is book bagging? I keep hearing the term, but I'm not sure exactly what it entails.
You want me to take it? I mean, book bagging is a term that literally you are putting classes in your virtual book bag. So you'll have the opportunity on a specific date to be notified of when you can look through all the amazing courses that are offered as a Pratt first year student, and then you can add them to your book bag. And then actually when you register for classes, which is later in the semester, you actually enroll in the classes. But it's the opportunity to just kind of like go shopping and put things in your book bag. And then when you're ready to check out, which is your registration time, you enroll in the classes.
Going off of that, I remember my freshman year, I was a little bit confused by the term book bagging because it made it seem like I could get any class that I wanted and I would get it, and I had all the opportunity for any class I wanted. But for freshman engineers, the schedule that you have is pretty set in stone. There's a little bit of flexibility, like if you're in a focus program. So you can go and look at the requirements for your specific major. And those are generally the ones you're going to want to book bag, maybe for different times, and look at the different schedules that you could potentially have. If you're an early morning person, you could have all the 8:30s. I don't know a lot of people who like that, but the book bagging could also just be certain classes getting like 3 different times for them and deciding which one you like the most.
Great. And I will say real quick, Zoom sometimes is kind of like a game of chicken. So like if I ask a question and then there's an awkward silence and we're all kind of just staring at each other, it's because we're trying to anticipate if someone else is going to talk before we start talking, because otherwise it like the audio clashes. So just want to like throw it out there. It's not perfect. It's going to be a little funny, but we're rocking with it. So awesome. Next question is, if you're in focus, how does class registration change?
I'm not entirely sure how to answer that question because, I mean, I'm pretty sure they've already chosen people for their focus. You've probably received an acceptance or whatever for an individual program within focus. And so you automatically have, if you do accept that program, you have to take those 2.5 courses, which includes a lunch course. Or a dinner course. I'm not entirely sure what that dinner course will look like, considering all the different the situation next semester with everything being online and stuff. But typically it is 2.5 courses that you are required to take if you do accept, and you can fill in the extra 2 courses with whatever engineering courses that you'd like, usually EGR 101 and likely a math course or EGR 103.
Oh, go for it.
I was just going to say, the process itself doesn't change much. It's just which courses are actually going into your book bag and then which courses you're actually registering for. And like Philip said, it's normally 2.5 classes. If you're unsure what your other 2 classes should be, whether it should be EGR 101 or math or chemistry, then you can contact Pratt-advising at duke.edu because our academic deans monitor that all summer. But again, registration and book bagging isn't happening until later in July, so you can definitely ask your questions and we would be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you. We had a question. If I do a double major from Trinity, do I have to complete Trinity requirements such as like foreign language and seminar requirements?
Yeah, I can cover that one because I'm doing that. For computer science specifically, and if you're taking ECE with CS, or I think BME and CS, there's a couple double majors that are very facilitated between Pratt and Trinity. But the short answer is no matter what your double major is, as long as you have a Pratt major, you're covered. You don't need to do all your Trinity requirements. If you're a Pratt major, you're in Pratt. If you don't have a Pratt major, you're not in Pratt. And then so whatever your Trinity majors are, if they're double majors, they are secondary majors and your Pratt major is first. And then so certain double majors, right, if I did ECE and like say visual media studies or like ECE and philosophy, there would be less crossover between my classes. So I wouldn't have any kind of facilitation or pre-made flowchart for it. But ECCS, I think ECE physics is a big one. So if you have a double major where there's a flowchart made by Pratt, it makes it a little bit easier, but it doesn't affect the humanities requirements necessarily. It just affects like which engineering ones can cross over and can be double counted for your 2 majors. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. Our next question is about AP credits. So on one hand, so one, how do AP credits transfer over? And then 2, do you have any advice on making decisions as to whether I should use my AP credits to place into higher level classes?
I can sort of answer the second one. I guess for the most part, it's definitely just a personal decision. If you are insured that your AP credit would count to switch out of a class, make sure that like you check on that depending on your score. But I personally I took AP Calculus in high school, and I didn't end up testing out of it. I ended up taking Calc 1 and Calc 2 at Duke. And it all depends on your confidence in math, but I ended up being really glad that I did take those 2 classes at Duke instead of being able to test out of it. I guess I just wasn't as confident in it, and I found them very challenging my freshman year. And I was very glad that I got to learn them from Duke professors and to reach up to Duke's level, and then I felt a lot more prepared for my other math classes. That's just for math specifically. But I think it's really a personal decision, as long as you really can test out of it if you're allowed to, how confident you feel with the material, and you can talk about specific classes with e-teamers or other upperclassmen that you encounter, how challenging they found it compared to what you experienced in high school.
I would also say it's really valuable to be able to test out of different classes, especially if you're doing a double major or like I'm doing 2 minors. I had limited classes that I could take and I had to overload a couple times. So being able to test out of classes is definitely really valuable if you can do it. I was able to test out into multi, but I didn't test out of chemistry. So being able to skip 2 math classes like gave me so much room earlier on to be able to take math classes earlier and then have that space later on. And I would, if I could have, that would have been also really helpful because it would have retrospectively would have allowed me to not take 2 classes. So I think that if you are planning on taking a lot of classes and maybe double majoring, something like that, that is something to consider when you're deciding. But you should definitely feel good about the material before deciding to just pass it.
But for those of you who don't have any ability to test out and you haven't taken APs, like I did test out of a few, but I have plenty of friends who didn't come in with any APs and they were still totally fine. They're still able to do a double major if they want to. They're still able to do study abroad if they want to. It just takes a little more advanced planning, but everything's still totally available to you. Testing out just makes things a little bit easier. That's all.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I agree with Sadie that it's a personal decision, and I would recommend for whatever your situation is, you can contact an academic dean at the pratt-advising@duke.edu email. It depends on when you took the test. It depends on which test. We always say all AP classes were not created equal, so we know that some students come in with a different foundation. So I would really recommend talking it over with your academic dean if you are in question about that.
And there was a question, I flagged it earlier, I don't know where it is, but when will they be assigned academic deans?
I can tell you that too. Sorry, I keep turning off my camera because my internet is unstable. So we're hoping to have those assignments done by the end of July, early August. We usually assign them by residence halls, so academic deans will have a certain set of residence halls. With all of the housing assignments that are getting redone, we're not able
Dean Mcmillan.
make those assignments until later. And to keep an eye on it now, and we'll get that information out to you.
Jennifer, is there anything you want to add? I know.
No, I didn't know if everyone was having trouble hearing Dean Mcmillan, so I was trying to chime in and help. Typically, the deans are assigned by residence hall, but obviously, since things are in flux with housing, we're looking at alternative ways, like we might get divided alphabetically, for example, but you'll definitely have a dean at the end of July, early August, but I put in the chat the Pratt-advising email. And if you have any questions until then, all the deans monitor that and any dean can help you. So if you just email that, we will definitely get your questions answered.
Great, thank you. We had a couple follow-up AP questions. So how does AP credit normally work for Pratt, and how will that be changing with the adjusted tests this year? Will that be making a difference at all?
I'll try this again. Hopefully I don't get spotty. Great question. So again, we're kind of doing some individual consultations for AP tests that were taken this spring 2020. Depending on the subject, depending on what you're interested in, we'll kind of talk that through and see if the foundation that you received with this AP test from spring 2020, if we think that's going to be enough of a foundation for you. Our utmost concern is that you are not at a disadvantage moving forward. So those AP classes and the AP classes serve the foundation for those upper level classes where you'll need to know. If you're unsure about that decision, you can contact Pratt-advising at duke.edu and we can discuss it.
Okay. We had quite a few questions about connecting with upperclassmen. I know we talked about E-Team a little bit, but there's a question: how can we get in touch with upperclassmen before registration? What's the easiest way to connect with E-Team members? How do you sign up to like get an E-Team mentor? So any of those things.
So we have, we are going to be, I think we spoke a little bit about this. You get assigned to a group of other first years, a small group with a specific E-Team mentor. And this year we are unable to do that until after registration. So I think it'll be sometime in August, correct me if I'm wrong, that you get paired with your individual E-Teamer. But all of the E-Teamers are still available now over the summer to answer questions. There's other resources as well. This is just if you prefer to ask E-Teamers. So we have a Facebook page on Facebook called Pratt E-Team, I think peer advising. And on the Facebook page is information to our email. We have an email account that you can email any questions to, and a specific E-Teamer will get back to you.
And then I'm not sure when the update to the website's going to happen, but I think last year's E-Teamers are at least up there. I think that we're going to be updating the website pretty soon in the next week, and so you'll see all of the current year E-Teamers, and you could also reach out individually if you see, oh, they're ECE, MECI, double major, just like me, I want to ask them questions. And so you can kind of read their profiles and tailor your questions to people who you think might be able to best answer them.
Yeah, and in it, oops, sorry, Jennifer, go.
You go, Shami.
Okay, in addition to that, what I did, I guess I was very anal with doing things. On Instagram, I like looked up Duke and then I did like hyphen like 2020 and I found upperclassmen through that. And then I also found club Instagrams and things, and I DM'd those and I got access to upperclassmen through that as well. So those are other resources if you want to go above and beyond.
It's dedication.
Yeah, I was just going to add that our we asked the web team to update our website, and they said it should be live on Friday, so you can see all of our new E-Teamers for the academic year 2020-2021. I also added in the chat Pratt E-Team at duke.edu, and that's the general email for the E-Team. So if you don't necessarily see someone specific that you want to reach out to, you can always email that, and we will get an answer, or one of E-Teamers will get an answer to you.
Awesome. Only other thing I would plug is your Facebook page. While it's while the majority of it is your peers, fellow class of 2024ers, there are also upperclassmen on that page that are eager and wanting to connect. So, so if you're looking for upperclassmen to connect with, you can also just post on the Facebook page. I'm sure there will be many that respond. And I'm sure you're also not the only person wanting to connect with upperclassmen. So don't forget about that resource as well. Next question is, can the panel give any advice as to how to space out classes? So when you're building your schedule, how should you space out classes? What does that look like?
I think it's a very kind of how you operate kind of question, and it really depends. I think it takes some time to get used to. So you probably will not space them out perfectly your first semester. You'll probably just get a feel for what it's like once you're on campus, and then you'll make a better second semester. So I don't think your first semester is going to be perfect in every way. Kind of use it as like a trial and error. So maybe take an early class and see if you like that, or if you know you hate early classes, then don't do that. I know that I like consistency, so I tried to have most of my classes start at the same time each day and end around the same time each day. If you can't get that, then obviously then go for as close as you can to what you like. Some people like to squeeze all their classes and leave like one day open. I don't think that's usually feasible freshman fall. But you can probably make a lighter Monday or a lighter Friday and then have a harder middle of the week. Again, it's more rigid in the beginning because you have more classes you're required to take. But assuming you have flexibility, I would look at that. The only other thing is make sure, so Duke Hub does, I think if you have classes that are spaced under 15 minutes apart or like under 20 minutes apart, it'll warn you and say these are close together. Even 20 minutes is not enough to go from west to east campus. I don't know where classes are being held this semester, but if they're held between west and east and you only have 20 minutes to transition from like an engineering building all the way to east campus, like the music building in east campus, you won't make it. So give yourself like half an hour. Don't squeeze those classes together or you'll be late. That's about the most advice I have. Oh, also, if you have like a long 3-hour lab and then also 2 lectures in one day and there's no break for lunch, like make sure you give yourself some breaks here and there.
Yeah, I think it really is up to personal preference. Some people like to have a consistent schedule where it's every single day you're in classes from this time to this time generally. Some people like to stack it so that they have a day off or a couple days off. So it really is up to you and your preference. I would encourage you to be honest with yourself. Like if you are not a wake up early kind of person, maybe don't schedule early morning classes. So really be honest with yourself about what is helpful for you to learn and like what is a good learning environment for you. And really it's up to you and however you can make it work. I know that that's a super vague answer, but that's it. All right, next question. And before I ask this, we have quite a few questions in the Q&A feed. So if any of the panelists want to go through and maybe start typing some responses to things, because I know we have some repeat questions and also some that are a little bit more specific. So if you want to start answering, like typing answers, and we'll try and get through most of these, all of these. Are any of the panelists also pre-meds? And if so, how manageable is the Pratt workload with pre-med requirements?
I am pre-med. That's my minor in chemistry talking because there's like 5 different classes you have to take for chemistry. So I'd say being pre-med, the main thing that is different is the amount of chemistry that you take because you go from being required to take 1, maybe 2 chemistry classes to needing to take Chem 101, Chem 210, the 2 orgos in a biochemistry. And so those 5 classes gives you a minor in chemistry, and those are the primary classes that make you go from being just an engineer to being an engineer with pre-med. And I would say that, so I've overloaded a couple times just because I'm doing 2 minors and a major, but I would say that I've overloaded 5 classes and 6 classes before. And my hardest semester was a semester where I put 4 classes in that were just poorly put together. I took differential equations, Orgo 2, Physics 2, and BME 244 on one semester. And that was the hardest semester I had at Duke, just because all 4 of those classes demand quite a bit, probably their classes combined together. So I think that being pre-med is definitely manageable. I was able to take 5 or 6 classes and have that be manageable, but I think that you have to be smart about what classes you put together and combining classes, because like Orgos are one of those classes that a lot of times people who are pre-med, they take their easiest load of classes that just focus on Orgo. But as an engineer, one of the challenges is that you can't just focus on the pre-med curriculum. You also have to focus on all your engineering classes. So I think the big thing to do when you're a pre-med and you're an engineer is be smart about how you plan out your schedule and make sure that you filter in, sprinkle in some humanities classes and try to not overload yourself with the STEM class every single semester, because that could be what's overwhelming. But it is definitely manageable if you're organized and are able to plan everything out.
And I will say we also have the pre-health advising webinar tomorrow. So if you're curious about that, or how they kind of meld curriculums, I would recommend maybe tuning in tomorrow too. And we might be able to help with that as well. Natalie, you mentioned overload, and we had a question about what is it and how do students manage it? And that can be open to anyone.
Yeah, overloading is taking more than 4 classes, and I don't even think that that's possible. As a freshman, you're only allowed to take 4.5 classes your first semester at Duke, which is nice because it requires you to kind of stay within the limits of a regular workload and not overbear yourself the first semester on campus. But overloading is taking 5 classes, 6 classes, 6 is the maximum, and it's taking more classes than the standard. I would say that you have to consider what classes you're taking and that they're manageable altogether, and that goes along with peer advisors, talking to people and getting to know your classes. But one of the things I overloaded with one semester was research, because you can take that for credit. So those kinds of things might be different from your workload, and you might be really willing to add another class on because you really like it and you want to spend 10 hours a week doing it. So I think you just have to consider whether you want to spend all extra time doing a class, if it's worth it, and if it fits with all the other classes you're taking.
Philip, did you want to add something? I saw you unmute your mic when the question was asked.
I think she covered pretty much everything. Just kind of research your classes, kind of get an idea of what each class will look like before overloading. Definitely, my advice is not to take BME 244 and Orgo 202 or Orgo 2 just like Natalie did in one semester. But as long as you kind of know where your limits are and kind of research your classes so that you know where exactly those classes fit relative to your limits, then I think you should be fine.
Yeah, I didn't ask any peers about that workload, so that was where my downfall was.
So another question is, so if you test out of a class and place higher, and then after being in that class, you think it's, ooh, my screen just, if you test out of a class and place higher, and then you think it's too hard for you, can you change back to a lower level class?
I think it all, sorry, Samuel. I think it all depends on timing. So when your semester begins, there is a period called drop add, and that's basically the window where you can decide to switch out of classes, switch into classes. Everybody's schedule kind of changes a little bit during that time period. So if you figure out by then, you can drop a class and add a different one without it showing on your student record. However, after drop add ends, you can withdraw from a class, but it would be shown as a W on your transcript.
Thank you. Are there any classes that all first semester engineering students have to take?
Yeah, so I'm pretty certain EGR 101. I know people graduating or rising seniors didn't get to take that because it's a pretty new class. But I'm pretty certain that that class every first year engineering student takes in their first semester. Other than that, I think Writing 101 is a class that every student at Duke takes, including engineering students in their first year. It doesn't have to be in your first semester. But other than that, it's pretty flexible.
Jennifer, did you have anything to add?
Sorry, I've been trying to type answers to people, but no, what Philip said, every first year student has to take EGR 101. In your first semester, you'll probably take a math course, you'll take some type of coding class, whether that's EGR 103 or CS 201. You'll take math in your first year and chemistry or physics.
Great. Next question, are courses for Pratt essentially predetermined for your freshman year? And also, how many courses do you recommend taking per semester?
Unfortunately, the classes are kind of predetermined because there's a lot of mandatory classes that you need to take throughout your time with that, and all freshman year, like the class where you learn Python, the design class that I think was mentioned before, history, physics, a bunch of basically baseline classes that most engineers have to take. But there is some flexibility if you really are interested in a focus program, for instance, like Philip did. He probably had to, and so you can, if you're passionate about neuroscience and you really want to take Neuro 101 your freshman year and see if that's something you want to pursue, you can, but you have to look at how that'll affect your schedule later on, because it might mean you have to put classes back. And Duke Handbook for your major is really helpful in kind of visualizing the classes you need to take. And so that's a really good resource for figuring out if you want to push back classes versus just taking them all, kind of when most other freshmen do.
So I just put in the chat kind of the layout for what the first year in Pratt looks like, so you can see. It is somewhat predetermined, but you have flexibility in like which level of math, kind of whether you're going to do CS 201 or EGR 103. But it is, there's a good layout for you there. And I would say for your first year, chime in, e-teamers, because you were kind of sitting in that seat a few years ago, not me, but I would think in your first year, you'd want to stick to 4 classes per semester.
I'm going to take the lack of response that 4 is about correct. Got some nods. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, Dean Mcmillan just texted me because she's having issues and she said they have to take 4. So coming from a dean now.
Perfect. We had a question about, sorry, when people type in new things, it like shifts the questions. Are the required writing seminars the same for both semesters? For example, if there's a writing class I want to take, but it's a fall semester class and I'm in focus, will it be offered again in the spring semester?
I think this depends on, if this question is about the required writing classes in like a Writing 101 class, like the class is called Writing 101. There are very specific writing classes which are listed as Writing 101. You can't just take any like writing class. And I would say it's dependent on the individual class, and you can check out. I'm not sure when it would be like posted if it's offered next semester, but different classes it's different.
Okay, next question. Will we be notified if our PMC credit has been accepted? Lupita says yes, they will. Dean Mcmillan says yes, they will. Okay. When will students know which semester they're taking Writing 101 and EGR 103?
I would assume that in a normal semester, the registrar determines that. And so I think normally it's like when you log into Duke Hub to book bag, there's like a notice there that says it. But again, the registrar determines that. So we're not 100% sure when you're going to get notified, but obviously as soon as we know, you will know.
All right, next question. What does the process of connecting students to opportunities like internships, what does that look like? What are ways to get involved?
Yeah, I can take this a little bit of this. There's lots and lots of ways. I don't know what it'll look like this year, obviously, with everything, but there's always a career fair at the beginning of each semester that is general, not just to Pratt. So you can always go to the career fair, and there's tons and tons of employers from all over. They're not just looking for rising seniors. They're looking for like people who are ready to leave college. They're looking for people who are even freshmen looking for a summer internship. So there's tons and tons of employers that are looking for that. Some will just tell you straight up, we're looking for a junior so that they can have an internship and then a return offer. But there are plenty of employers that are not just restricted to juniors. And then there's also Tech Connect, which is like a Pratt or engineering specific career fair. There's also some other STEM thrown in there. So econ or CS or stats or something like that. But that's mostly for just engineers and other STEM majors. So that's its own career fair just for that during the same week as the career fair. And both of those take place sometime in September. Again, that's usually all bets are off for this year, but assuming that it stays the same. And then spring semester, there's a second one of the same sort. And then there's also plenty of other ways you can get involved. So there's lots of employers that come to campus and hold e-socials on Fridays. That's always a great way to get in contact with employers directly, because there's always one that will be hosting food and a hangout on the E-Quad on Friday afternoons. And then there's also, you can always reach out to people through the website, through the Duke Career Connections website that I don't know if you have access to yet, but you should have it soon if you don't yet. And then there's also listings on Duke websites. There's email lists that you can eventually get added to, like the Innovation and Entrepreneurship email list has a lot of stuff that they blast out. There's a whole entrepreneurship realm that I'm not, maybe Shami can talk more to that. I am not as involved there. But then there's lots of other email lists that you'll get on either major specific or just ones you can join earlier than that. And then lastly, you can always reach out. There's a Duke alumni network that I'm pretty sure you can sign up for as soon as you get your net ID, I'm pretty sure. And you can reach out to alumni that way, and they're always so willing. Even if you just find them on LinkedIn and they have Duke as an alum, as their school, that's another great way to get in touch with people directly. I mean, it's colder, obviously, it's not through an official job listing, but every time I've reached out to someone, they've always been so excited to talk about Duke and talk to me about whatever. So that's a whole listing of ways you can potentially get involved.
Does anyone have anything else they want to add about that?
I know Samuel mentioned me, but I'm not gonna lie, I was answering questions, so I didn't hear the question that you asked, Casey. Sorry, what?
It's okay. It was, I don't have the exact wording, but essentially, like, what does it look like to be connected with opportunities as far as like internships? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I would say, like, in addition to everything Samuel said, some clubs have been really helpful. I'm involved with the National Society of Black Engineers, and every year we go to a national conference. The location changes every year. I think this year was supposed to be in San Antonio, and they have like career fairs there that link me to opportunities. And I think SWE does a similar thing as well. Through INE specifically, they have a really great alumni network that is incredibly helpful. And on their website, they also have like a resources page for like research opportunities or internship opportunities. So Duke is really great in that, you know, there are chances to find opportunities everywhere.
Awesome, thank you. There are a few questions asking about focus and asking about the specifics of like course assignments and what within Trinity and Pratt would you have to also complete. I would recommend reaching out directly to Focus and getting like responses from them about, because they're the people who are going to know best about the curriculum. So I see your questions and I don't want you thinking that I'm just ignoring it, but I think honestly reaching out to Focus is going to be the best answers for those. Oh, perfect. Jordan just sent it out to everyone. And I think Dean Mcmillan was also working on some of those questions, so hopefully that's helpful. All right, next question. Is it possible to do certificates in both aerospace and INE?
I can answer that. It is possible. It's going to be different for every student. But once you do have your academic dean and the semester is underway, you can meet with your dean and make an academic plan so you can see on paper what it's going to take to fit both certificates in. For some students, it might be a little bit easier if you're coming in with AP or IPC credit. But every situation is different, so you'll want to talk to your academic dean about it to make that type of academic plan to see where you're going to have room to put classes that are not major requirements.
Awesome. Next question, and I'm going to tweak it a little bit, but just thinking about the like the academic rigor, e-teamers, what was your experience from like finishing high school and the level of difficulty with classes in high school and then starting at Duke?
Yeah, so I was just answering a similar question on the chat. But this is a pretty difficult question to answer because, I mean, Duke students come from like all over the world, and high schools obviously differ in rigor. I personally went to a really difficult high school. I know some students went to really easy high schools, got A's without even trying, and so for them, especially in the engineering school, it was pretty tough. Even for me, coming from a really difficult high school, I had a really difficult senior year. It was still a challenge to kind of assimilate or kind of adapt to the environment in Pratt. So generally, for most people, for the vast majority of people, it'll be harder than your senior year of high school, but it really does vary between different people.
I agree with Philip there, and I'd like to add on that no matter what high school you went to, college is going to be, I think Shami mentioned this, college is going to be different, like regardless. Maybe not with the rigor if you went to a super challenging high school and you took challenging classes, but there's just a big difference between like waking up and going to school for however many hours and then coming home and maybe doing some homework, but in my experience at least, there's a lot more responsibility in college placed on you versus the teacher. In my high school, my teachers would come up to me and be like, hey, you didn't turn this assignment in, like, are you working on it? And not that your professors won't like care about you in a similar way at college, but it's just a lot more responsibility on you as an adult to do your work and come to class. It's not like they take attendance in many classes. So besides rigor, I think it's just a very different experience, and it just takes getting used to. And I can only speak for myself, but I would say most people, their first semester of freshman year, find it a bit of a difficult transition. But there's also things that are like a lot more rewarding about it than high school, and you don't have to wake up at 7 in the morning every single day and go sit in class for hours. So it's just different, and in general, probably more rigorous than your high school.
Right, and I also, yeah, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Philip.
Okay, just really quickly, yeah, like, while I said that the rigor is more difficult, something that I really want to emphasize is that you have infinitely more resources in college than you did in high school. You have tutors, you have advisors, you have e-teamers. They're all willing to help you because we all know that the freshman year experience can be difficult. And so please don't hesitate to reach out to upperclassmen because they are probably the ones that will help you get through this difficult time, especially in the engineering school.
Natalie, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I completely agree with what Sadie said, that the transition is definitely, college is definitely different from high school. If you're looking for an explanation of how it's different, because I remember when I was going to be a freshman, I was really confused about how freshman year in college it would be so different from high school. A good way of thinking about it is a lot of times in high school, you are lectured to and told what to know. And then a lot of times in your college courses, it's going to be a lot more open-ended. You're going to be given material, and then the work that you're going to do on your own is 10 times what you do in class, in that you're going to be learning a lot more all on your own and using that baseline from class and doing the homework and exploring completely different things and kind of doing self-learning and self-teaching of some of the material. And that's the really big difference. Instead of being given a lot of material and needing to understand it, you're given some material, well, you're given a lot of material also, but then with that material, you have to do a lot of learning on your own.
Yeah, I would say that it's not just about the rigor, but it's just a different class environment generally. Like you'll be in lectures, like in high school, maybe you had like classes with maybe the biggest was like 30 or 40 people, but now you might have classes with over like 100 students. So it's definitely something to get adjusted to, and the rigor might be a little bit more difficult. But alongside like upperclassmen and professors and all those resources, you also have your peers who are also in the same boat as you, and you can definitely like talk to other people in your class to help get acquainted with it, because you're not the only one that could be struggling your first year.
I also would add on sort of what Philip mentioned at the beginning, that people are coming from all different types of high schools and even around the world. And that added a bit of an extra challenge freshman year, because I went to a relatively small rural high school where it wasn't super college preparatory. And I think that that's just sort of like your freshman year, everybody's sort of getting up to the same level, like on track to be getting a Duke education. And then from there, in general, you all have a similar baseline, but definitely at the beginning, it can be very different from high school because you're with so many people from different backgrounds who have different educational backgrounds.
Yeah, I think a lot of what y'all shared is great advice and right on the spot. I want to be mindful of time, so I think this is going to be our last question of the day. But what does it look like, and is there room to explore other courses outside of Pratt if engineering degrees require 34 courses?
I think for that question, engineering degrees require 34 courses, but I don't necessarily think that the major has exactly 34 courses that you need to take. I'm not sure on the exact number, but I think the number might be like 28 or something like that, where you still have, if you only take 4 classes each semester, you might have 4 or 5 classes left over, and not even counting if you decide to overload for a semester, you can have even more courses. But there's definitely flexibility if you want to have flexibility. If you want to take all classes within your major, that's possible too. It's completely up to you. I think the flexibility definitely increases as you go from freshman to sophomore to junior to senior year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So sorry, Shami. You also are required to take a certain amount of humanities for your major. Depending on your major, depends on which ones you have to take. But at some point, it's like you do have to take some of these classes. So then those you can choose any classes that seem fun to you that are sort of like branching off from your major.
yeah, and I would just say as a testament to that, I really love the arts. Like I love short films. I'm going to be taking a class on short films, or I was supposed to be taking a class on short films next semester. We'll see how that works out. And then also, in addition to clubs, like if there are areas that interest you, you can also, in addition to classes, if there are areas that interest you, you can also look into clubs. Like I'm a drummer, so I play the drums for a certain club. I wouldn't be able to do that in a class, but I'm able to supplement that through extracurriculars. So
Also, depending on what you're interested in, you can like sort of shape your humanities that you are required to take to meet those requirements. I am interested in visual arts and have found a way to match all of my, hopefully I'll be able to match all of my humanities up with visual arts classes that satisfy the requirements. So if you are interested in something specific, you might not have to overload or do any specific accommodations. You can just take what you're already required to take and shape it to what you're interested in.
Yeah, I spent the first 2 years taking every single requirement I had to take, and even I'm still taking some, but I've finished most of them by now. But my point is that like still took a couple classes that were totally outside the realm of what I normally would take. I took a journalism class that was probably the coolest thing I ever took. Even though I am like, if you ask any of my friends, I'm a hardcore engineer through and through. I still had a lot of fun doing these random classes that were still going towards my major in some way or another. And I had a couple AP credits, but I know lots of people who, again, come in with almost no AP credits. And that 34 sounds like a scary number, but it's actually really, really manageable once you see how things overlap and once you see how things can really, there is so much flexibility within those 34. It's not just 34 like engineering, math, and science, like all just condensed into a ton of information. It's very much more flexible when you actually kind of start doing it. I would say don't overly concern yourself yet with that. I think get your feet wet with the first semester. Take the few classes that you know you have to take, and then once you're on campus, things will make much more sense. And I think that goes for a lot of things we've asked here. Most people, I was really scared of coming in freshman year, but once you actually get your feet on the ground at Duke and you start talking and meeting people, everything just starts to pan out and make more sense in your head. It's just really scary beforehand when you have to do all this book bagging online over the summer. But all you have to really make the decision for right now is 4 classes, and they're essentially decided for you. Maybe like 1 or 2 small decisions here and there about timing or professors or which math class to take. But beyond that, don't concern yourself too much with like what comes in 2 years.
But get excited about what comes in 2 years, because it made me so happy to look at my 4-year plan freshman year and see the BME classes I was going to take junior year. Don't worry about those decisions, but get excited to get to take those classes, definitely.
Awesome. Great advice from all. Shout out to my panelists. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all of the new students who are joining us. Hopefully this was helpful. I will shameless plug, be sure to join the E-Team Facebook page. If you have any questions for the E-Team, you can email them at pratteteam@duke.edu. If you have any questions about like academics or curriculum, or just want to talk to a dean, you can get them by pratt-advising@duke.edu. So we really are here to help you. We want to help answer all of your questions and make sure that you're feeling prepared. So please don't hesitate to reach out. If you're not sure where to start, New Student Programs is a great place, and we'll help connect you the best we can. Our email is studentorientation@duke.edu. So yeah, you have a thriving community who is ready to welcome you and ready to see you on campus, whether that is physically or virtually. We're not sure, but we're excited to see you nonetheless, and excited to welcome you. So thanks for joining. We'll be posting this on the Class of 2024 Facebook page and also on the New Student Programs YouTube channel. So if you want to look back at any of this information. So yeah, thanks for joining.